What does the fall equinox mean? Do we even really need to know what and when the autumn equinox are? You might be surprised at how much understanding a bit about the fall equinox can help us on our journey to empowerment. Welcome, I'm Kim Marie, and this channel is all about supporting women to step into their most empowered self so they can live their most fulfilling life. While we hear a lot about the autumn equinox or the fall equinox, even just the equinoxes and solstices in general, there's often very little we really tend to know about it. You know, people have a sense of when they are, but I'm often amazed at how many of us don't really know even when they are, let alone what they are and what their deeper meaning is. So that's what today's video is about. We're going to cover what the autumn equinox is, what it represents, some of the symbolism around it, some of the deeper meaning behind it. We're even going to look at what's the difference between the vernal or spring equinox and the autumn equinox, how they're different and how they're alike, and also begin to look at why it's even important to consider the meaning and symbolism and celebration behind the fall equinox. So what are the equinoxes? And we're going to take a look at the differences and the similarities. First of all, the equinoxes happen twice in a year. There's the vernal or spring equinox, which happens around the 20th to 22nd-ish of March. And then there is the autumn or fall equinox, which happens around the 22nd of September. First, let's look at the similarities. On an equinox, equinox literally means equal day and night, equal. Okay, and so that is true on both the spring and the autumn equinox. And of course, if we are having a spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, there is an autumn equinox in the southern hemisphere and vice versa. So we're talking more specifically about the fall equinox today, so I'm going to put a lot of my attention on that, but it's important to look at some of the differences. So at an equinox, what's happening is as the Earth is rotating around the sun is basically at the equator on the equinoxes. And so we end up with this process of everything happening equal day, equal night, okay, in terms of the way the sun rises and sets and the timing. And it's because the Earth rotating around the sun has the sun basically shining directly upon the equator of the Earth. In the spring equinox, our days start getting longer, and that's because the rotation of the Earth is such that the sun starts being more and more north of the equator. And I am talking about the northern hemisphere, which is where I live, but it's going to be the opposite in the southern hemisphere, okay? So as the sun is rising higher, this is why you end up with the midnight sun in places like Sweden and Finland and Alaska. That is why the days grow longer, because the sun is higher up, it's shining longer. And then similarly, as we're here approaching the autumn equinox or the fall equinox, the sun, the way the Earth is rotating around the sun, it's starting to fall below the equator. So our days are getting shorter and our nights are getting longer. And we will have the shortest day, shortest number of hours of daylight at the winter solstice, and we have the longest number of hours of daylight at the summer solstice. And so that's the difference between the autumn and the spring equinox or the vernal equinox. Okay, so what about the symbolism and the meaning of the fall equinox? Well, equinoxes and solstices can be a portal for change, significant portal. There's a lot of energetic information happening here. Now, the equinoxes, we're talking about creating a sense of balance and harmony, and there's some different energies around the solstices. I offer free quarterly gatherings as part of my Inner Wisdom Circle community, and I encourage you to check out the link in the description for that, because if whatever quarterly gathering I have going on, you're going to want to register for that and check it out, because we connect and we celebrate and we go deeper into the rich meaning and symbolism around whatever quarterly festival, including my upcoming fall equinox gathering. So be sure to check that link in the description. Now, as far as touching on some of the meaning, because we can't get into it quite so much in a short video, it really has a lot to do with first looking at that equilibrium for the equinox, but then also at the turn of the wheel of the year. We're turning inward. As I said, the nights are going to become longer after the autumn equinox, so there's a certain amount of darkness coming over the northern hemisphere, and we're turning into our own inner light. And so that is a big part of this. I also have videos in which I talk about Michaelmas and Mabon and the different festivals of the pagan tradition that are also celebrated around this time. And there's a reason for that celebration. There's all these deep meanings around celebrating the harvest and gathering the harvest, as well as, like with Michaelmas, we have a certain level of cultivating courage to tame our dragons, because as things get darker in the cycle of the year, a lot of times our dragons come up to the surface to be tamed or dealt with or addressed. Our dragons might be another term for our shadows, or looking at shadow work. And we really do have our own rhythm and cycle of the year, just as nature does. Just as the seasons unfold, things unfold within us. And so this is one of the reasons I think looking at these special festivals and special times during the year help us on our path to full empowerment. When we can recognize what's going on within us, we can actually begin to use these cycles and times in the year, like the fall equinox, to help us on our journey. And so here we are looking at, okay, what are we harvesting? What are we gathering? What kind of dragons might be coming up? What kinds of things might be getting in our way? How do we want to step into this darker time of the year and look at who we are a little bit more deeply? So the fall equinox can really help us on this journey to empowerment as we begin to look more deeply inward and align with this pause, this sense of harmony and equilibrium, and the ways in which we also align with nature. Okay, we see the leaves falling. What are we letting go of? What can we allow to be released in our life in order to prepare for a new cycle, a new birth, right? And we can look at that within ourselves, and that in itself really supports us on this journey to empowerment. There's also this association with courage and even a certain amount of purification. Now, the fall equinox is one of many festivals that come in at this time in the year, when the darkness starts to prevail, so to speak, and overcome the amount of light that we have. I think many different wisdom traditions just started to really create various ways of honoring the light and respecting the light, and really beginning to look at, okay, we know and we trust that the light will return, right? And yet, it may have felt a little bit scary or uncertain to see everything starting to get darker and darker. And so I think there are just many different festivals, and I've got lots of different videos on some of these, and I'll keep making more so you can keep looking at that. The connection to and alignment with nature is such an important element of our empowerment, because we are not separate from nature. We are nature. So that means we live according to the laws of nature and the way nature unfolds. And the more we understand about natural cycles and rhythms, the more empowered we can be in our existence on this planet. We also tend to, as things get darker and we turn inward, there's a certain connection to spirit or source or creator or the great mystery. Many feel that these festivals that progress after the autumn equinox are very much in connection with the idea of connecting to spirit. Later on, at the end of October, we're going to have All Souls Day, and that is a festival of connecting with ancestors and being able to sort of have a thinning of the veil. And so this great mystery becomes a little bit more available to us. It's kind of like when we lose one of our senses. You know, many people say that when a person is blind, having lost their sight, their hearing is so much more amplified. And similarly, if we lose the hearing, our sight or our sense of touch might be that much more amplified, okay? So we could think of it in that way. As the darkness is coming over our experience in terms of shorter days and longer nights, and we don't see as much in the light of day, what can we see beneath the veil? What might we realize under the surface in our life as we move forward on our path to empowerment? So I really hope that you will tune in to the cycle and rhythm of the year and really connect with the fall equinox. This autumnal equinox has so much energy to step into. And when I started connecting with nature's rhythms, it was the autumn equinox and this time of Michaelmas, Mabon, all of that energy that really helped me to begin to pay more attention to my own inner journey. And it's an easy time to start that. In some traditions, the autumn is considered the beginning of the year. Okay. And of course, we tend to think of the beginning as January. Some people think of it as more along the lines of the spring equinox or Easter time. Different traditions have different points. And the reason is that there are deep meanings to all of them. And I invite you to see how the autumn equinox feels to you as you keep turning the wheel of the year and the rhythm of the year within you. And again, I want to remind you, be sure to join my quarterly festival of the Autumn Equinox Gathering. You'll find the link in the description. If you're watching this at a time that's not near the Autumn Equinox in the Northern Hemisphere, check out other things on my website and other places for other quarterly gatherings, because I'm always offering those, and they're such a powerful portal to step forward on your path to empowerment. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.